Good afternoon, everybody, on this 8th day of June. Hope everybody's had a great start to their summer so far. My name is Jeannie Borum. I'm part of the corporate team here at Signworld, and I'll be the host for our webinar today. For those of you who have not joined one of these sessions before or watched one of the recordings before, I'll just give you a very quick overview of the format for today's session. To begin with, we're going to have each of our owners, current owners in the business today, give a background and an overview of themselves and their business, so you better understand how long they've been in business, where they're located, their backgrounds, etc. And then once we're done with the introductions, we're going to turn it over to our participants to go ahead and ask any question that you have for our owners, concerns about the business or anything that's top of mind for you that you would like to ask them. Each of them will give you an answer, so you'll get multiple perspectives. In addition to Jack and Ken, at times will also include their perspectives. So I ask our participants to think of that single question that you want to ask, and we'll be able to go through each of you at least once, and depending on the number of participants we have join, we might be able to have second round of questions, but we'll see how time permits. So with that said, if we can turn it over to our owners to give an introduction of themselves, that would be great. Stephanie, can we start with you?
Sure. I'm Stephanie McEwen from Signcraft Solutions. We are in Wake Forest, North Carolina. That is just north of the Raleigh-Durham area. We've been in business 13 years. We currently have just short of 6,700 square feet. We are in the middle of signing a contract. We will move into 10,000 square feet in December. That does not include, there will additionally be a gated area for our vehicles and other things. It's going to be perfect. It's wonderful, and we're excited about that. We have 14 employees, and then Bob and myself, so that makes 16. Projected earnings, our goal was 1.75. We did not up that from last year and wanted to work on our profit margins and make sure that we were really healthy that way. We could easily hit 2 million anyway. We're on course to do really well. Other questions? Biggest customer would probably be Schools Village, which is a complex of all kinds of different kinds of learning centers and things. Think of a mall strip for parents and kids activities, things that they can do, and that's about 70,000 altogether. And my background, I always say my first career was that of mom. We raised 4 kids. We have 14 grandkids, and my background is in occupational therapy. A few years into doing this, I let that go and did this full time with my husband, and I enjoy it. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I just didn't imagine it being this big. I was thinking something a little smaller.
Wonderful. Well, Stephanie, congratulations on the move. That's going to be very different having all of yourself in one building instead of separated down the way. So congratulations. That's exciting. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Helen, let's go to you next. Can you give an introduction to yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Helen Mckinstry. I'm located in Austin, Texas. So we kind of cover the greater Austin metro area. We have been in business 5 years this coming Sunday, I believe it is. So we actually went out to lunch yesterday. It was the best day for everybody. So we did our little 5-year, we used to go out every year, but COVID kind of put a little damper on that. So we did we got back to our celebration, our anniversary celebration this week. So 5 years. We're currently in 3,400 square feet, just moved in March. Love the extra room. And yes, it is true. Before we know it, we'll be wishing we had yet more. Currently we have 5 employees plus myself. This year it's interesting. We set our target a little differently this year. We're currently targeting around 720,000, but we are putting a huge focus on really putting I get pen to paper, whatever. We're really trying to focus on our profitability, profit margin. And so as we consider things through the year about, we really do need to make this extra purchase, whatever, we're constantly reevaluating. Okay, so how does that modify our target? Because we're still trying to stick with certain profit margins. And so it's a little bit more of a moving target this year, which I'm okay with because of what our primary goal is. But we're targeting around 720,000 currently. Our biggest customer or largest project in recent time is we just finished up some major signage for Round Rock Donuts. So for anybody in the Austin area, that's a well-known name. It's been around for, I don't know, 30 years. And they opened a new location in one of the other suburbs in the area. And we've done close to about $87,000 worth of signage, large monument signage, exterior building signage, a large hanging mezzanine sign. And so that was a really fun project, and we got bonus donuts out of it. So that made all of our employees happy. My background before I started this business, I was with IBM for over 30 years. I was a software engineer and went into business consulting the last 5 years of my career. Really enjoyed it, but was really happy to have the opportunity to retire from that career and do something I dreamed of for years, which is to open my own business.
Love it. Love the bonus donuts. And I have to call out that we enjoyed meeting Dawn at the ISA event in Atlanta last month. So glad she was able to join us for that.
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't able to go due to some personal conflicts, but we were represented.
Yes, you were. Very good. All right, David.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Greathouse with Horizon Sign Company in St. Louis, co-owner with my wife who handles most of the marketing and networking piece. We've been in business for a little over a year, so a year in February. We have a 2,900 square foot facility that also seemed pretty big when it was empty, and you know, I'm mentally scooting things around already while we're figuring out what the next big addition is going to be. We currently have 2 full-time employees plus Megan and I, and we're probably looking to have at least 1 or 2 more on by the end of summer. At the moment, we're tracking well to a $550,000 projected 2022 sales figure, and we've had a smattering of good repeat customers. We have one customer that has about $60,000 worth of sales with us, and we have a current open project for an 11 building apartment complex that's going up throughout this year. So definitely been an interesting first, what would that be, 16 months that we're into now. You know, learning a lot as we go, trying to figure out, you know, like we're talking about margins and what do we want to focus on, continues to evolve.
Very good. And what was your background before this, David?
Before this, I was actually in the Marines coming out of college, and then worked through corporate America through supply chain management.
And what was Megan's background?
She was in marketing. So her last one before exiting was at Nestle Purina here in St. Louis.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jack?
It's hard to talk after David. He's got that perfect radio voice.
He does.
Then you get my raspy voice afterwards. I joined Signworld back in 1995 as a Signworld operation. Started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee, ended up in 5,000 square feet, staff 11, doing about 1.3 million in sales. That was back in the days of cut vinyl. We were more of a banner shop, a retail location using the yellow pages and going after local business. So a very, very different model as we've evolved to keep changing the business. I sold that operation in 2005, joined Ken, our founder and president, at the corporate office, kind of a partnership arrangement, learning his end of the business. Finished buying him out back in 2014. In July, it'll be 8 years. So when I answer questions today, if it goes to my speaking about life and running a business, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more to training and policy, I'll speak from that perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. And none of us would be here. Signworld would not exist without our founder, Ken Kint. Ken, go ahead with your introduction, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Afternoon to some of you. I started Signworld 34 years ago in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm still here. My largest customer was Bank of Hawaii. I did all kinds of outdoor, indoor signs for them, branch, headquarters, ship signs as far away as Guam and California. One of the things that people ask me about is what was my number one reason for starting Signworld? What was it that I wanted? And the answer is very few employees and very few customers for the amount of money that you as the owner can make. So, for example, let's fast forward to when you want to retire. One of the first things that we teach in training, day one, first hour, is we cover exit strategy. And where do you want to end up? Let's say that you want to sell your business for a couple of $1 million when you're ready to retire. Well, here's what a $2 million Signworld looks like. It's one building. It's benchmarked at 14 employees. It's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's 95% of your business coming from less than 5 miles away. But you're all looking at other franchises to join. Almost all of them are service businesses. Here's what a $2 million service business looks like. It's not one building. It's probably 3 or 4 locations in 4 different parts of town. It's not 14 employees. It's 100 employees or more. Ask yourself, is that part of your DNA? Is that what you want to do in the second chapter of your life? Because if you end up with 100 employees 10 or 15 years from now, that means between now and then, you're going to hire 400 people because of turnover. You'll spend most of your time in the recruiting and the training mode. Usually it's not 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Usually service businesses are more like 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. So take a look at the future, plan your exit strategy, think that through and all of the opportunities that you're looking at. Thanks, Jeannie.
Here we go. Thank you, Ken. All right, now it's time to turn the floor over to our participants to go ahead and ask your questions. I'm going to go in order based on when you joined. So Scott, I have you first, followed by Brian, then Mitch, then Rajiv, and then Paul. So we'll go in that order to start. So Scott, if you can go ahead and take yourself off mute, share where you're located, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
Hi, I'm Scott McAllister. I'm in Valley, Nebraska, which is just west of the Omaha Metro, and contemplating Signworld as a business opportunity. So thank you to both Jeannie and Jack for the time that you've spent with me over the last couple of months to do that. I guess my question for the group would be, I've heard multiple times now the idea of reevaluating profitability and resetting margin expectations and so on. Could you expand on that a little bit? Is it, what was there something wrong you felt as a need to address that, or is it the evolution of the market or the economy? Or speak to that a little bit if you would, please.
Yeah, very good question. Let's go ahead and start with Stephanie.
I would say it has a lot to do with the economy. Our prices on supplies are changing constantly, and so you have to be really careful and watch that. So spending time with that is just a smart business for anybody right now. You've got to stay on top of it and make sure you're doing everything you can to be as efficient as possible. Should I have been doing it before the economy was bad? Yes. Was I some? Yes. Am I more vigilant about it now? Yes.
Very good. How about you, Helen?
So there are a few different reasons that got us thinking about it. One is this is a year where we've pumped a bunch of business money back into the business, build out with larger locations, some equipment we bought. But the other thing is we discovered when we were just chasing a revenue number only, It's easy to go after some of the largest jobs, but most of our largest jobs, we are outsourcing significant portions of it for either fabrication or installation with bucket trucks that we don't yet have. And the profit margin on those jobs is much lower, which is okay, right? It's okay. But at the end of the day, it's a balance, and each individual, I wouldn't say there's any right or wrong here. It's what do you want to do with your business? How do you want to be building out your business? And we decided that we wanted to take a little bit more of a balanced approach. We definitely still want to go after those large jobs. They will have large outsourced components to it, but we didn't want that part of our business to overwhelm the work that we do in-house with fabrication and installation, which has a significantly higher profitability. And so what we did is we looked at what percentage of our business is outsourced, what's the average gross margin on those jobs, what percentage of our business is in-house, what's the gross margin there, and how did we want to balance that for an overall target blended gross margin for our business? Because if you're going after, $720K for the year, but 80% of that's outsourced, your profit's a whole lot different than if you were 50-50, let's say. And so that's what I meant by it, right? So, but I also second Stephanie, we have had to be a lot more careful this year as we're looking at costs and making sure we're staying on top of costs because of the inflation, supply chain issues, availability issues that are happening, price increases. But for me, it was really getting more laser focused on profit margin and thinking about those subsets of my business and where we wanted to balance it out appropriately.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. David, brand new to the business and obviously growing fast and furious. How are you on keeping track of your profitability and what are you doing about that?
Yeah, so it's probably only been within the past few months that I could have told you with any confidence what our margin was, beyond a single order, right? So I could tell you, the local university, I had a 60% margin, and I could kind of tell you what that was comprised of, whether that was in-house or vended. I think that recently started to get a little more aware of how much time and energy we spend on it, and also considering as we've developed what is showing up. So we did a lot of channel letter signage in year one, and I would never have guessed that. Sitting in your guys' seat right now, like, what are we going to do with our sign company? I had no idea, right? So a lot of that was vended, and we started getting good at it, right? So we got good at the process of getting designs made, permits, approved, having our vendor partners give us, consistent pricing and production, and getting them up and having it look good, right? Didn't know that was going to be what we were doing, but that does impact how much time am I spending on it too. If we were going to take as long as we did originally getting every single channel letter job up, I would probably not price them the way that I am now, right? So ultimately, you have to kind of decide as your organization kind of comes together, what are we getting good at? What equipment have I either brought in, or what vendors are we using that facilitate doing any particular type of product? And that's going to kind of dictate to some degree what's the market going to yield margin wise. Keeping a close eye on costs. Like we started in the pandemic, so I don't know anything better than just like, well, you pay attention to the cost every single order because it changes every day. So I'd say that's nothing concerning if we're paying attention to, like, okay, I'm going to expect to get this much total margin out of the business 1 month versus another. It's just, I think, being nimble to what the market's yielding and knowing yourself as you grow.
Thank you, David. Jack, your thoughts?
It's not just the cost of materials that's going up, it's cost of doing business. As payroll goes up because of the job market, as gas for the vehicles goes up because of fuel supply, as rent goes up, you've got to keep adjusting. And as you get more savvy in the business, figuring out, as David said, which projects to go after, not just what am I charging for, but which ones do I want to have more of. As you have more staff and you're handing products from one to the next, it's having processes to handle it, so you're not making mistakes because the information wasn't passed off properly. So there's a lot of different things as the business grows and grows into different segments that you have to kind of rebuild your processes to handle it at that level. As you start having more support staff, you've got to make sure that you're covering their costs as well. So there's just a lot of different areas that you have to constantly as you get to each levels, somehow plateau at certain points, get smooth at that level, then go on to the next one, get smooth at that level, and keep going.
Very good. Ken, your thoughts?
They who manage by the numbers make the most profit. That's why in corporate life, usually the chief financial officer of any corporation is the second highest paid officer there. We teach this stuff all the time, constant ongoing training with Signworld and focusing on your numbers.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, let's go to our next participant, Brian. If it looks like you're ready off of mute, if you can share where you're from and go ahead with your question today.
My name is Brian. I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about 40 minutes outside of Nashville. My history has been 27 years in mortgage banking, so this is very different for me. And by the way, Ken, I love your comments, manage to the numbers, because in my business, that's vital. My question is really around marketing. And it's kind of twofold. One, how would you measure from the start, the difficulty in transitioning from a different industry? And how would you measure speed to efficiency from the start? Do you feel like you're very efficient from a marketing perspective and bringing business in? And then the last question, directly related to marketing as well, is a new owner starting the business. How would you gauge what percentage of your time is spent prospecting? So kind of threefold. Difficulty going from a different industry, speed to efficiency, and percentage of your time required at the start prospecting.
Okay, very good. Let's start with David first. And I know your wife does a lot of the marketing hours, so you'll have to give us that measurement. But
Yeah.
ramping up into this business, being brand new to it, how hard was the learning curve? How'd you get comfortable, efficient, and how much time is spent?
Sure, absolutely. So, as Jeannie mentioned, Megan handles the lion's share of the marketing effort for us, since that was her background. But we do work in lockstep to make sure that what we are trying to acquire from leads that are out there align with what we're getting good at. I would say that right off the bat, we didn't know what we were good at, so kind of kept it simple. We just would say, what can we get from our marketing partner, and then kind of work with them on a frequent basis. I think that's probably one of the things that anytime I'm talking with prospective new owners, I tell them, like, you really need to pay attention to what your marketing agency is doing for you in generating leads, because they don't really know. They don't know if what you're getting is enough, and you kind of need to be a squeaky wheel. And I think that that paid off for us last year. And then once we, as for like efficiency of bringing things in, it was only once we started to really engage, with, and I want to say we were with ClickText, engaging with the ClickText partners to say, hey, we're either getting too much of this, not enough of that, to really dial it in. You have to be all over the numbers, right? The marketing, it's absolutely just what's showing up, how much are you spending, are you getting what you're looking for, and then tell them what's coming of it, because they don't really know whether that sale, or that lead turned into something significant or absolutely nothing of value at all. And then as far as prospecting goes, we have, again, kind of split that level of responsibility. I effectively am our lead salesperson for our organization. So I'm kind of at a tactical level of selling the next thing, making sure, hey, if you're here for your window graphics, why do you need new window graphics? Oh, we have a new location. Oh, got it. Are you taking care of the sign up front? Oh, no, I didn't know you guys did that. Right. So that's on me. But Megan will handle relationship building to get us in with organizations we want to be partnered with. So in our case, we're really interested in multi-purchase opportunity, like commercial property managers, things where people are going to need things on a recurring basis. She works that, and then when it pays off, it's like, all right, great. Here's a $50,000 project, for our first relationship with someone. And I think that's probably one of the most difficult parts of this, as far as where I'm looking at, because she's out there grinding to get those relationships to bear fruit, and we're only a year and change in, so we're just now starting to see the fruits of that labor.
That's wonderful. I'm going to add one more question to this, the threefold. The number of, as you think about efficiencies and, time spent on marketing, what is your conversion rate on quotes that you submit? So forget the leads that you don't want to go after. Submitting a quote, what's your conversion rate? Do you know?
That's a good question, and something that I think I'm going to make an intentional effort to track better. I would say that I probably, if I were just going to throw a number out there, probably 60 to 70% of the leads that come in, I at least respond to in a sufficiently quick timeline. I might be shortchanging myself there, but we can't get to work if I don't get a hold of them.
Right. But then taking a step forward, how many do you convert into an order that you actually quoted on?
That I do know, that where we have been kind of wavering around 50%. And it does spike right now. I can't get people to stop buying stuff. So, it's closer to like 70-80% conversion.
It's a tough problem to have.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Let's go to Helen next.
So I'm going to talk about my first 6-8 months in business, right? So first 6-8 months in business, we set up an organic, we set up our website. We were doing some search engine optimization. We were doing sort of basically trying to build organic results. And I was investing a lot in BNI and personal networking. And we did some analysis near the end of that first year. When I say near the end, we opened up mid-year. So, close to 6 months in, I ran some numbers, and it turned out that maybe, 70% of our business at that time of new business was coming in from my personal networking efforts. And I knew that if I wanted to scale and grow, it couldn't be dependent on Helen and Helen alone, right? So I made an explicit decision then to start investing in an external marketing firm. And so in January, so about month 7, we started up with an external marketing firm, and our phone started ringing significantly, that very first month, and they were doing things more like around Google AdWords while they were also building up some more organic, search results. And that was a good move for us. I don't know if we would have been prepared for that day one, because we needed time to develop ourselves. We would not have been prepared for the fire hose day one. So for us, I think in hindsight, I can't say I was smart enough to have planned it perfectly, but in hindsight, it worked out well. About our 7th month in, we had our pricing down, we had our processes down. And so when the phone started ringing more, we were much better prepared for it than if we had hired that marketing company day one. I think we would have floundered a bit day one, but about that month 7, it worked out really, really well for us. If we think about, what percentage of time I spend, if I think about, so now I'm thinking now, 5 years in, how much time am I spending? I have a hard time. So I'm going to say I'm going to divide it roughly into thirds, right? About a third of my time is spent on sort of prospecting for the large, more complicated types of potential engagements where I'm really trying to develop a relationship, a trusted relationship with a potential client that could really grow into something significant. I maybe spend about a third of my time overseeing active orders that are the complex, large orders. My team knows how to handle the simpler, smaller orders. I mean, that's just business as usual. So I'm really focused on the larger ones and really continuing to build and solidify that relationship that has paid off for us, because when they see how we engage, they become repeat clients. And then maybe about a third just being on the business, right? Just thinking, marketing strategy and how do we want to continue to grow? And so I would just say, just sort of broadly speaking, things where I'm on the business. When you ask about conversion rate, I think we're in about our mid 40s right now. So about 45% of our estimates are converting to orders.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Stephanie, it's changed a lot since you joined 13 years ago when it comes to marketing. Tell us a little bit about your story.
I'm glad you said that, because I do feel that way. So we initially did a lot of networking, and we still continue to do a fair amount. We're very much repeat and referral. But when we first started, we were on the tail end of still doing things like yellow pages, and it was kind of the old-fashioned way of doing things. And internet was important, but we built our business so strong on that repeat and referral that we haven't really solidly gone into the whole internet optimization and SEO and all that sort of thing. We were going to do that this year. That was every bit of our intention. We're looking at these new companies and we're thinking, goodness, we could have so much more business. But to be honest, we're so busy, it doesn't make sense to put more money into something that we might not be able to do well. We've been bidding on some very, very large kinds of things, so that skews our percentage. We're sometimes, our conversion rate is as low as, I'd say, 35 to 40%. It's sometimes that low because we're doing these really big things. Pam just did a $1 million bid. Are we going to get that? I don't know. I almost hope we're not right now because it's a little bit scary. But we learn as we do that, and it's putting us into a different place. So we do business a little bit different, and I don't see that as being bad. I think there are many ways to do it right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. Jack, your thoughts?
Number one, none of us came with sign experience. That wasn't what we were looking for when we joined. It was having the ability to build relationships with customers, to manage the expectations, to multitask, to deliver to the customer what they're looking for. That's what makes us an anomaly compared to our competition. That's what drives us. How fast you grow, I think, as Helen said, you've got to first get organized and start doing some things and then really kick it in gear. Trying to open the doors and bust it wide open, it's greedy, but it's not necessarily wise, sage advice. You're going to have to do some prospecting to begin with, because the internet is not going to drive the business initially unless you put money into pay-per-click ads. The SEO takes a number of months. So you have to realize that the networking, which you may not be anxious to do, is kind of a necessary evil for at least the first period of time. And then over time, you're going to see that as repeats start driving, as the referrals start driving, as the internet starts driving, probably not going to have time to network. So the business is going to go through different stages.
Very good. Before we go to Ken, can you go ahead and start your slideshow?
Sure. So I've got 3 different slideshows I'm going to show here. There's no audio, so we'll continue with questions. The first one just shows some of the operations inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like, knowing each one is different. Second slideshow goes to what is a sign, not only what the original equipment makes, to then the outsourced projects, and the third part of it showing some of the unusual things we make, things you wouldn't think of as a sign. Third slideshow goes to some of our wall of fame, some of the unique projects that Signworld Owners have done. So I'll put these on while we're discussing more.
Very good. Ken, any comments to the last question from you?
Sure. There's, in our industry and our times, there's really only 4 ways to get business. One is through your website, the internet. 2 is your networking, going to your Chamber of Commerce lunches and Rotary Kiwanis and Lions and Elks and those kinds of events. 3 is going after the people that you already know, which can be a fantastic source. And 4 is to go cold calling. So I want to ask a quick question. Stephanie, in your career in the sign business, have you or Bob ever gone cold calling?
I have personally never done it. I would imagine Bob has done very little of it. We had a salesperson early on who, if she wasn't busy, that was exactly what we encouraged her to do. And we did get a couple of things from it, but it's horrifically low percentage. It's not a good way to go.
Okay. Helen, do you go cold calling today?
Do not effective.
Okay. David, do you go cold calling? Okay. So that one's out. So we're going to do a great job in introducing you to 2 or 3 different website internet companies. And if you work with them and follow the program, Helen, what % of your new business came from the website, from the internet, say, once your website took hold?
Oh gosh, 80%.
Okay. And Stephanie, once your website was rocking and rolling, what % of your new business came from your website? Not your repeat business, your new business.
Oh, the new business. Oh, then it's pretty high. Easily 80%.
Okay. And David?
Yeah, similarly said there, where relationship driven stuff just didn't really start taking hold until the past few months.
Okay. So there's two ways to do it: website, internet, and networking, and three ways in going after the people you know. And you follow the program, you'll never ever have time to go cold call. Thanks, Gene.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, let's go to our next participant. Mitch, if you can go ahead and take yourself off mute, share where you're from, and give us your question for today.
Hi, this is Mitch McDonald. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah area. And my question is about margin expansion. Based on some of the performance, maybe the first or second year, what were some of the activities that helped not just increase overall volume, but margin intensity in the business?
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and start with Stephanie. As you're evaluating the numbers, how are you helping drive higher margins?
So maybe I'm just not thinking straight. So you're saying, just repeat the question quickly for me, Jeannie.
Mitch,
I
go
can
ahead.
repeat it. I'm just wondering, as far as gross margin from a percentage standpoint, what activities helped you increase gross margin percentage versus, just increasing overall volume of the business?
You want to analyze the different types of things you're doing and looking at those profit margins and deciding, like Helen said, if you don't have certain equipment and you're outsourcing, that may not be the best way to go. On the other hand, if you've got a low margin, but it's a monument that's $40,000, it's still a good project, a very good project. If I'm doing little tiny projects with great margin, but I've got to do a bazillion decals to get there, it may not be the right way to go. So you just kind of have to evaluate it. And I know that's not a great answer, and I apologize.
Absolutely, it's a good answer. How about you, Helen?
So, I think it's several things, right? So one is, in no particular order, really have a good handle on your costs and your prices and therefore your margins, right? So we have ways of pulling, the ways we've set up CoreBridge and the ways we pull reports gives us a very good view of what types of jobs bring what type of profit margin. That helps us make decisions about levers that we want to tweak. The second one would be really increasing awareness on the staff, right? So helping them understand, gee, when you forgot to take one of the signs with you and one of you had to leave and come all the way back across town to get it and go back again, what additional cost did that just add to my job? When you got a boatload of rolls of vinyl in the garbage because things went wrong in production, what did that just do to the profit margin of our job? So we spend some time really trying to help our employees be aware so that they can be a part of us, maximizing profit where it's within our control. And then looking at the in-house versus vended, including, what types of things are we really growing in our business and how much of that are we having to vend because we don't have the right equipment in-house. So when is the time to bring new equipment so stuff that used to be vended now becomes in-house work. So it is a combination of all those things, but really, once again, know your numbers.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. David, your thoughts?
Yeah. So, excuse me. One of the things that I talked about doing channel letters, it was something we were focused on early on. Kind of by circumstance, we ended up getting some equipment for a job that then made other similar options, maybe lower cost options available to us in-house, specifically with dimensional acrylic cut lettering. So that's something that I could take if a customer was going to spend $6,000 with me. And I could get him something that was, maybe more impressive for that $6,000, or conversely, I could save him some money and bring in the same amount of dollars at the end of the day for what I'm hanging on to. That's something I want to pay attention to as a salesperson. Say, like, what is it that they need? Do they know what they need and want? And then try to guide them based on what I'm aware of as far as which things are better margins. So I know one of the things that the Signworld organization instilled in me early is that the printer is an absolute margin monster. Like it will make dollars appear in your bank account if you can get that kind of work. So that's something that I always try to leverage. Is if there's something I can print in-house, I'm going to try to make that happen. but I'm also in that startup phase, right? So if I'm doing well and making, additional margin, I'm also probably still investing into things that make work go faster. I think the point of not having, not making additional runs to Home Depot, that's an important thing. Not redoing, certainly if you chunk a big graphic that you have to start over, yes, you are spending the additional media, and but probably as important as anything else is time, especially as you start getting busy. So margin management a lot of times I think is just going to be indicative of your process management, and that's easy to talk about but hard to put into place as you are, with one, maybe two employees, in year one, and trying to say, oh, well, let me tell how everyone does their job and how we can do it better. It's challenging. And you have to have a team that's kind of willing to pay attention to the rationale for why we're going to pay attention to that stuff. And unfortunately, it's challenging right now with the labor market. You might just get who you get. So if you can't find someone who's got that mentality, you're going to have to, instill that in them, that these things are important to us if we're going to grow.
Very good. Thank you, David. Jack, your thoughts?
Well, if you think about it, as the other businesses that you're contemplating joining as an alternative to Signworld, they've already picked the niche and they've already picked the customers, and you hopefully like them. In Signworld, we recommend that you start off a bit of a generalist and let the niches come to you. And that way, long-term, you're happier. You might love doing vehicles, or you might hate doing vehicles. You might love doing channel letters or not do very good at it. So let the niche come to you over a year or two and become more specialized in it. There's so many different niches to this industry, and it's the fun of the businesses every day is different. Some products are high in material costs and low in labor. Some products are low in material costs and high in labor. What are you going to be good at compared to the next one? So allowing that to develop is really the blessing of the business.
Ken, thoughts to share?
What Stephanie and Helen and David said was to increase your margins or your profits. It's your ability to analyze multiple project opportunities and figure out which ones are going to give you the most profit per hour, which includes not only the time that it takes to make the signs, but the time it takes to collect your money. Some owners are very good at that. Deposit up front, full payment upon delivery of the sign. Others chase their money for days and weeks and months. Thank you.
All right, very good. Let's go to our next guest, Rajiv. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you can make sure I have, that'd be great. Share where you're from and go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, Jen, that's perfect. Most people don't have a problem pronouncing my name, but thanks for checking. I'm actually from Austin, and when Helen said Round Rock Donuts, I was startled because what are the chances of finding somebody on that call that even knows what that thing is? And I actually lived in Round Rock before this, and we moved to Austin 10 years ago. So, and like you, Helen, I also have a corporate background, so some small business and some corporate background. My question, I've been listening to various speakers, I've talked to Ken, is a little bit open-ended question here. I'm a little early in the process. I understand that prior signage experience is not required. I think everybody has established that. Finding customers is not a problem. The phone just rings if you do the marketing right. It's more a question of being responsive and being, suitable, quality oriented. The product is not complicated. Margins are healthy. So what is there, not to like about the business, right? What are the reasons, or what did you know and not know when you signed up, when you actually decided to go into the franchise? I also hear you didn't have a market fleshed out before you signed up, right? I'm hearing that you let the niche come to you, be a generalist initially. So can you speak a little bit about, what is it that you had to establish upfront before making the decision to sign up?
Okay, so I heard a couple questions there. So What do you dislike the most about the business or found most challenging? And what did you have to overcome to actually make the decision to do what you're doing? And I'm going to add a positive spin. What are you most surprised that you enjoy the most about the business? So let's go ahead and start with Helen first, since she's your neighbor and you both love donuts.
It was funny when Round Rock Donuts walked in to give us their initial very large deposit check. She also came in with a box of donuts. We ignored the check and we hovered over the donuts. When I start out, to be very frank, in the Austin area, I looked around, there's a gazillion sign companies. And so I had a very common concern as to, well, how do I think I could get into that market, right? I will tell you that concern went away pretty darn quickly. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. There is a ton of demand out there. There's more demand. We are limited only by our capacity. Okay, that was true then. It is true today. One of the funnest things about the business is, for me, it is different every single day, and it's not the reason I chose this business. But it is one of the reasons I am happy with the choice. Is we actually have fun. We have a whole lot of fun. We enjoy engaging with clients. So if you're somebody who really enjoys engaging and building relationships, that is a way to build strong, large repeat clients who trust you and trust you to take care of them even when things don't go well. And we get a chance to really be creative and design in partnership with our collaborators, our partners, our vendors, our suppliers, and our customers. And every project is truly different. And we are continuously learning. Every project, it seems like we're learning something new. And I just, that just keeps me going every day. I am never bored, ever. And so, I think that the challenge is just to stay on top of things, be an outstanding communicator, and build those relationships.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. How about you, David? What do you like the least? What do you like the most? And what was your biggest obstacle before you joined?
Yeah, sure. So I would say probably one of my biggest challenges, especially early on, was coming to terms with the fact that I would have to talk to people and sell them things. That wasn't really what got me focused on Signworld as an organization. It was more the fact that we were going to be producing something of actual physical existence, which is very different from what I did in the corporate world, where it was very much process management, logistics, supply chain stuff. So I never really got to see it. And now, I drive by no fewer than 4 of my signs on a relatively short drive home. I've got one right outside my window that's giant and gorgeous, and it makes me, I've got physical reminders of the things that I've accomplished. But I don't know that I fully grasped, what that was going to be like for someone who had actively avoided sales for my entire professional career. But I would say that there gets to be a point where, I mentioned I come from the Marine Corps, and there's a concept of fake it till you make it that they push on you pretty early on. If you pretend like you're having a good time, you can actually survive some pretty intense things. And at some point, I got to a place where I did feel like I knew what I was talking about, and that really did make it fun. Being able to be a partner with lots of young businesses that, like, hey, they're kind of like me. They're starting a new business in the middle of a pandemic, and they're like, I want to get my brand up on my building, and being a part of that. That's really rewarding for me, and that was what got me there. I would say that, in terms of what was the decision-making process, and like what was the real hurdle for me to clear, I would say that Signworld has kind of an unfair advantage over traditional franchise operations. There's just, I haven't seen many, if any, other types of setups where they're just going to get you started and off you go, and it's up to you. There's folks that started within a year or so of me that have been seeing large margins on decent amounts of revenue, or absolutely bonker level revenue, but are growing with smaller margins that they're comfortable with, because revenue kind of fixes all things. So for me, it was keeping an eye on what can I do this in a flexible way. Megan and I both went through to get our MBA degrees after the Marines, and we felt like if we were able to take our own initiative and make the business what we wanted, that we'd be able to do well. And I think that's going well for us so far. The typical-ish net margin, I'd say is relatively reasonably accurate. A year in, it's not going to be like that day one, but you're going to quickly stabilize. And I think that was something that having spoken with so many of the owners that are really there and genuinely want to help you succeed, they kind of testified to the fact that, like, yeah, we're a little lower because we do X, or we're a little more conservative so we get Y kind of margins. That was kind of a big deal for me, and I think it came through truthful with what we were presented.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, your thoughts? I'm sorry, wait a minute. Sorry, Stephanie. I missed you.
Okay. Coming into it, we didn't have a whole lot of reservations. We felt pretty solid about it. So that wasn't a big concern. We had not been business owners before. Neither one of us have business degrees or, understand HR and accounting and all those kinds of things. And I wish I had. Those are the things that were the hardest to learn, and I'm still learning about when it comes to taxes, etc. And not my favorite parts of the business, but it is what I do, and I do it decently now. The thing I love most about it is the difference that we make to individual businesses and to our community. A few years back, visited a small town that we used to live in back about 30 years ago. And we commented how nothing had changed, including the signage. And that makes a big difference. When we go into communities and we start updating things and helping them look more vibrant, it makes a physical difference in that community. And I truly feel connected to my community when I can go around and see so much that has been done by us and done well. And we have people that we haven't seen for years, and they'll say, the only reason we haven't seen you is because our sign's still holding up. It's looking great. And I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that. So I love what we do and wouldn't change a thing.
Love it. Thank you, Stephanie. Jack, your thoughts?
I made a list of 35 things that are important for me out of a business. And some involve what my daily life was going to be. Some involved what the economics were and what the family was about. And I found that Signworld hit all 35 of those, while everything else did. This is a business in a box with multiple different assembly ways that you can put the business together. A lot of tools to help you succeed along the way. So it's kind of the best of all worlds.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Ken, any thoughts there?
Biggest challenge was getting the work done on time when the floodgates opened. What did I like the most? Like Helen said, every day is different, every project is different, and that makes life fun. And what did I hate like the least? And that was paying taxes.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. We're going to go to our last participant for his question. Paul, if you can go ahead and take yourself off mute, share where you're from, and give us your question for today.
Sure. Well, let me apologize. It was a little late. I was stuck on another call, so I'm sorry I joined so late. One of the questions, and I think Helen may have alluded to this, maybe people, how did you go around figuring out what the competitive market looked like? And I'm very early to this. I think I talked to Jeannie, was it two weeks ago, maybe? And that was one of the first calls I've had about any franchise. So I'm highly new to this. So I apologize if it's something, but that was the first thing. And then secondly, when you talk about costs, how much of those costs are regional and how much of those costs are really, going to be the same across most owners if they're doing roughly the same projects? Meaning, how much of it is the supplier costs are pretty much the same, but everyone has to deal with them? And then how much is regional, which I would think is employment, what the cost of employees are has to change quite a bit depending on where you are, I would think, as well. So to the degree, understand the variables of that, would be interesting to hear more about as well.
Okay. Let's take competition, because although you're new to this process, that's a very common concern. As Helen said, it was her biggest hurdle to get through as she was looking to join the business. So let's expand a little bit more on that one. Let's start with you, David, as the newest owner. How did you get past that and assess that in your market?
Sure. So we did do a market analysis. Megan and I did. One of the things I think Dan kind of pointed us towards early on was go ahead and he gave us something that I think was a decent example. Go ahead and call a dozen or so local outfits that you can find, and I'd say there's probably like 30 or 40 in the St. Louis area, which is not a huge market. But go ahead and call them and say you need something and see how that goes. And I think we were pretty shocked if we called 20 of those folks, we probably got replies back from 3 within a day or so, and probably another 3 over a period of a week. So I think what that told us was, there's certainly, I don't know if it's going to be the same for everything that you inquire about. Like if I pretended to represent like an apartment complex, people might jump to a little bit, right? But if we were just saying, hey, I need something for the front of my business, what can you do for me? If you just show up and answer the phone, answer the email, like you can do pretty well. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that, whatever the baseline pro forma is, that you shouldn't be able to do that with a very mediocre level of performance if you just answer the leads that you get. So that was kind of a big tell for me. It was like, okay, sure, there's folks out here. We have goals to not be a mom and pop shop that just kind of gets to things when we get to them, and pick and choose what we're going to do. We want to grow. And I think we saw pretty early on that there's plenty of room in our market for another entrant of that size should we grow that way. And as far as cost variation, regionally, I'd say that the labor is probably going to be a big one. Here in St. Louis, it's a relatively low cost of living compared to the rest of the nation. But as we're buying things from some of our major vendors, like they're national distributors, so you're kind of going to get what you're going to get. There might be vendors that are closer to you that you develop relationships with over time that you can beat. Folks that are maybe more of a national presence and they're not really concerned about you necessarily, you might be able to represent a bigger chunk of business to someone local as you get a little more familiar. And I'd say the only way to really know how to develop that is either you have a rock star employee that just knows everyone everywhere, or you lean on folks through either the portal or your mastermind groups to say like, hey, who are you guys using for HDU? Who are you guys using for channel letters? That sort of thing. How are you pricing that, right? Like, because you have no idea when you start. So, and as far as the cost goes, I'd say that there's going to be room to figure that out beyond getting started. I'm still figuring it out.
Very good. Thank you, David. Let's go to you, Helen.
Trying to remember the question. So it was the competition. Okay. So, there were a couple of things. It is very clear, what David said is so true. In fact, we still get it today. Our, customers will call people we've never dealt with before, and they'll say, yeah, we called 6 people and you're the only one that called back or the only one that answered the phone. We often end up winning deals just because we were responsive. So that is an indication of opportunity in the marketplace that is not being strongly addressed, right? The other thing I did is, I guess the other thing that I didn't believe from the Signworld people, and I was wrong, was they're like, go talk to other sign shop owners. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? I'm their competitor. They're not going to want to talk to me. And I will tell you that out there in the world, you will run across the occasional curmudgeon just because we're all human beings. But the vast, vast majority of other sign shops that I approached in the area shocked me and how welcoming they were and collaborative, and even invited me into their shops to show me around and show me their equipment and talk to me about the business in the local market. That just floored me. So when you don't believe Ken and Jack and Jeannie and Dan saying, yes, go talk to other sign businesses in the area, believe them. It is absolutely true. And I learned a lot more about the local market and the local opportunity by spending time with those other sign businesses. And we early on built collaborative relationships with them. So when there was work I couldn't do, they helped. They learned to come to me when there was stuff I could do that they couldn't do. So that was a really strong thing to grow early on. There are market differences, both in costing and in pricing, right? So in Austin, it's becoming a very expensive place to live. Cost of labor is going up. Also, you know, where that might not be true in another part of the country. The other thing is just even pricing. So I will tell you, I've got a number of colleagues in our network here, Signworld around the country, and they'll tell me how much they can get per square foot for vehicle wrap, and they can command a much higher price than I can in the Austin area. And we've done trials multiple times where we've, you know, used our cell phones to call businesses and find out what people were charging. And I know that the Austin market is much more competitively priced than other parts of the country. So that's just part of what the process you'll go through in the first year, 6 months, year, is getting a sense of, you know, how can you price things competitively for your particular market.
Very good, Helen. Thank you. Stephanie? You're on mute still, Stephanie.
Stephanie, you're on mute.
You went off and came back onto mute. There you go.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There we go. Okay. So great answers. Competition. I remember being intimidated by, there was a organization that had been around for 64 years, another one that had been around for 14. Neither one of them are around anymore. I've been around 13 now. So it just hasn't been a problem. As we bid on large things, we find out who else is bidding with us. And we really don't bump into a lot of people like I assumed we would. Some of those really large projects are being taken care of by people out of our area, out of the state even, which I find interesting. And they are sometimes quite hard to compete with, but we're learning and getting there. As far as pricing and regionally what it's like, I completely agree that it is different in different areas. You've got to find your own way and push the limits and find out how far you can push to do that. We're trying hard to do that right now, and it's why we're not getting as many conversions, but it's teaching us a lot. And don't be swayed by people that say numbers that sound really amazing, because sometimes numbers say what you want them to say, and they don't always include what you're including. So push the limits yourself and figure that out.
Love it. And I love outlasting the competition. That's great.
Yes.
All right, Jack, your thoughts?
You know, a couple things. One, most sign companies that are out there, you're going to find it's a crowded market. There's no doubt. There's lots of sign companies. When I joined Signworld 27 years ago, there were 10 within a mile of my location, 300 in the county, and that was 27 years ago. I thought I was too late for the party, but if you really look at it, most sign companies are not owned by a business person. They're owned by a former sign maker, one of the employees you might have hired, who, while they know how to make signs, is a single task-minded person. That boss, I'm done with the last one, what should I do next? Now trying to run their own business, they're overwhelmed with projects, and they're worried about the current one and not about the next one. They don't show up for the appointment on time, they don't get the quote back quickly, and rarely do they deliver on time, on budget. You become the anomaly in the market. There's always going to be competition out there. You know, as far as costs, there's some regional differences, but the reality is, even if your rent is higher, your payroll's higher, your utilities are higher, your competition's paying higher rates too, and so they've adjusted the market same as you. So it really levels off the playing field for where you're really competing, because most of your customers, while you can have regional and national customers in the long term, in the beginning, you're dealing more on a local basis and growing out from there, and the contacts are local. So they're having to deal with the same costs as you are.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Ken, your thoughts?
Go visit your competition, especially the good ones. Make friends. Someday you may buy them out. Someday they may buy you out. In 34 years of Signworld, we've had over 200 resales. In the majority of the cases, they were bought out by a local competitor who they knew. Also, when you visit your competitors, if you spend a little time with them, then you can figure out how to beat them. Once you know what they're all about, then you figure out how to beat them. If it's faster time, whatever. Thank you.
Very good. Well, we are past time. So first off, I'd like to put a heartfelt thank you to Helen, Stephanie, and David for taking time out of your busy days to join our session today and share your thoughts and perspectives, especially you, Dave, with 1 hour notice jumping on the call. We really appreciate you filling in today.
Happy
And
to
to our
help.
participants, we appreciate you attending and having your interest in Signworld. We look forward to those future conversations to continue this discovery process to see if this is the right fit for you and your next chapter in life. And with that, wish everybody a great rest of your Wednesday. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you.